How to make scrolling text in OBS Studio, both on the PC and on the Mac. I'm going to show you 3 ways of doing it. First way is where we can add it to your main scene with a color background and the text scrolling, much the same as this. I'm also going to show you a better way of doing it. So if you need to update that text and you've got it on multiple scenes, you can alter it in one location and then it will update all those relevant scenes that is using that scrolling text. And the best way, I'll show you a method of how to do that, but it's not actually in the scenes. You will be triggering it either through a keyboard shortcut or through something like a Stream Deck, like I've got on screen at the moment, and you'll just press a key and your scrolling text will appear within whatever scene you want it to appear in. So on whichever scene you want to add the text on, if you go to your sources, in this case, I've got it set up so my sources are at the bottom here. So I'm going to add the plus there, click that. I'm going to choose a color source. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to call this, let's call this gray. Select a color. I'll go with a dark gray. Okay. Size. I don't want it to be too deep, so we'll say 120. Okay to that. So my text is going to, I'll move that down. So my text is going to scroll on top or within that box. So your configuration might be, or screen setup might be slightly different to mine. But if I want to go to click plus and then I want to go to text, click that, call it, I'm going to just call it test, if I can spell it correctly. Now add the text you want. I'm going to copy and paste some from another location. Drop that in. So you'll see that's quite a lot of text. I'm going to just scale that down a bit. Bring it down to the bottom. I'll select the font, change the font down to 72. In this case, so it fits a bit better. Make sure you're on the text, move that down. So that's where my text is going to start. I'm now going to add another filter to this text. So if I go onto the text, right click, filters. Now, don't worry about it, you can't see the text. Click the plus icon. Now I want to go to scroll. We'll call this scroll test. Again, you can, if you call it what it is referencing, so it might be news ticker or subscribe ticker or whatever. Now what you can do is, because that's going way off the text is going way off the screen, I want to limit the width of that. So I'm going to say this, if I move across a bit, you can see that's 100. I'm going to say 1920. Move that across here where that gets me. Yeah, that's 1940. I should have mentioned it. We'll say 2000. That'll do. And we want it to loop, so we want obviously the text to loop. And speed, if I just, that text there, can I resize these windows? See, yeah, so you can see my activities. So if I want the text to go backwards, I move this icon or this pill the wrong way or that way. If I want the text to scroll in a normal method, I just move it positive, and then if I can have it going really fast or that. Again, you want it quick enough for them to see what's coming, but slow enough for your audience to read. So if I'm happy with that, I can say close. And that's it. I can add more to the text and stuff like that. If I go back to the text, if I want to, I saw something a bit close, so I can add spaces, which then gives a bit of breathing space within the text. But so that's how you add it. So that's added to the scene. Now, if I wanted it to show another scene, I would technically have to copy that and drop it into that scene. Now I'm going to show you a method where you don't have to do that, and we're going to use, you'll notice I've got these BOs on the side there. That's how I've set up this on nested scenes, and I'm using broadcast overlay as the indicator so I know what these are. So let's set it up so it's a BO rather than just text within and a background within a scene. Let me delete them, and we'll delete that one. What we're going to do, a smarter way of creating the overlay, that way we can update it and it would update it within all the scenes we're using it. So we're going to use the broadcast overlay, in effect nested scene. So I'm going to right click, add a new one, which is a scene. The scene wants a name. I'm going to say it's a, I've used emojis at the beginning so I know what they are. And it's a broadcast overlay. This is my own naming method, so I know what it is. And it's called scrolling text. I'm going to say that's that there. So now I want to add elements or assets to that. So if we scroll down to the bottom, or again, depending where your sources are, let's add one to it. So click the plus there. So the first thing we want is a color source. I'm going to call this, let's call this one red. Red test, and we'll add that. I've got to choose red, otherwise I'd be lying to myself. Now, what size do we want it? We'll leave it in 1920, and I think the last one was 120, so we'll go with 120 again. We'll move that down to where we want it to display. We'll save there. Now we want to add text. So if I say add text, which is there, let's call this red test, even though it's not going to be in red. Let's call it tests. Now I need to add the text. I should have changed the font size. Select font. We'll say 72. Okay, you can do other things to the text, strokes round and stuff like that, outlines. Turn that off for a moment. I'm going to drag this down to here. So that's where the text is going to start. Now we want the text to scroll. So on the text, right click there on your sources. Right click, we want to add a filter. And the filter we want, if you click the plus icon, we want scroll. So click scroll. I'll call this red. Now we want, again, same as before. We want it to go forward, probably at that speed. And we want to limit the width. Now that's going to contain it, so we'll say limit the width. Obviously 200 is narrow. You can stretch it. It scales the text in an abnormal way. I'm going to say, what did we say, 1920 before? I haven't obviously done it the same size, so let's say 1860. We'll go with that. It's on loop. Obviously put it on loop if you want the text to loop. We'll close that. I'll just nudge that a bit there. So now that's the text within this broadcast scene, or broadcast overlay, I should say, sorry. So this is, in effect, just a nested, we're going to use as a nested scene. So now that's playing in the background constantly, scrolling. Now I want to add, so if I go to the scene with me in it, this scene here, and if I want to add to this scene, I can go add, scene. So now I'm adding a scene within a scene. I want it to be a broadcast overlay. So if I look for my pin, so that's there. So did I call it that? Yeah, scroll text. So I select that and say OK. So now that text is in within that scene. Now I could go to each scene and add that. So wherever that is in within the scene, it would show. Now what I could do is if I go back to here, scrolling text, this one here, if I disable that, obviously it wouldn't show in the scene here. And if I had it in 10 or 15 scenes, it wouldn't show. But it's a bit of a faff to do it that way. So going back to scroll text, let's turn that all back on. Obviously, within this scene, I could turn it on and off. Yeah, so this third method is basically taking that scrolling text we've just created, not actually adding it to the scene, but using a plugin called the Downstream Keyer. That allows you to have any elements triggered, or for want of a better word, available in all your scenes. So it won't show in all your scenes. So once you're on a relevant scene, you can actually trigger any other elements to show in that scene. I'll walk you through it. I will do a separate video on Downstream Keyer. It's not complicated, but it just takes a bit of forward thinking of how it works. So what I want is this scrolling text to be available in all scenes. And after I've done that, I'll actually create a Stream Deck button and just show you how to trigger that on and off. So what we want is this scrolling text. So if I highlight that, now here, you'll see I've got Downstream Keyer here. So I'm going to press plus. It's added the the broadcast overlay scrolling text, because that's the scene I'm on. And now what I can do is so if I go to this scene here, zoom in here, you'll see this pause button. And if I press that, the item, it comes on. Now, if I pause it, in effect, stop it from playing. If I go to another scene, this is me with the cam. As you see, I didn't add the scrolling text to that scene. If you look here, this is the content of that scene. But if I go to the scrolling text here and press that, you'll see the scrolling text shows. So with the Downstream Keyer, this is like, if anybody's familiar with Ecamm, where you can have an element that shows in all scenes. Ecamm's a paid professional streaming and recording software. This is, again, it's a plugin, but this allows you to do something similar to what Ecamm is, showing all scenes. And again, that's triggered on and off at your will. So here I can have other elements. I'll show you that as well. So if I pause that text, I could have an invitation to subscribe. And there's that. That's a different channel I'm on working on. So that's a Downstream Keyer. And that's how that works. Now, what I want to do is actually create that with a short key and then link it up to the Stream Deck. I'll leave a link to the Downstream Keyer and Stream Decks. So if you want to check out these devices as well, I'll leave a link to those in the comments and descriptions. So what I want to do is go to settings. So let's go to files and then settings. I'll bring this box up here. Is go to where it's got hotkeys. So click hotkeys, find that scene. So there's the scene I want. So if I scroll down just a tad, you will see within that scrolling text, I've got various options. I want to use the ones that DSK, which is the Downstream Keyer. That's these here. So I'm going to assign Shift 1 and Shift 1. So it's the same button that's going to turn it on and or off. So that's my hotkey. So if I apply that now, on the keyboard, if I do Shift 1, you will see it's turning off my scroll text. So regardless of what scene I'm in, so if I go to the scene with myself, I can do that. So if we go back to the Stream Deck, the side cam, I wouldn't normally have these. I don't want to click the scene with this in because it's with the screen, and then we get that infinite setup. So if we bring up Stream Deck here, so this is the software that controls the Stream Deck. I want to go to, let's go to OBS test. We're looking for a hotkey. So we'll drag that one across there. We want to assign it. So you just, now it's waiting for your keyboard action. So if I press Shift 1, so let's give it a nice little icon. I'm in the middle of designing a bucket load of icons for various things, OBS and various software I use. So I have set up this one. So if I drag this across, that's now my key. So you'll see that on the software there. And if I close that down, you'll see that now on the Stream Deck here. If I put that there, so if I press that, see that triggering, and that's how that works. So if you found this video helpful, do give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to tap subscribe so you don't miss out on any updates. Particularly, I'm going to do a series on OBS. If you didn't like the video, share it with somebody that you really don't like yourself. And I'll see you in the next one. We're going to cover titles.